Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Ian, thank you for joining us today. And for everyone who's listening in, who's pulling this up to listen in and partake today, thank you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening in. I'm Brian Fox. I'm with Omni Federal and partnered up with ATARC to be hosting this DevOps focused podcast, part of the DevOps Community of Practice and Working Group. There's a lot of exciting things that are starting to happen from ATARC, so you can expect more. There may be some software factory focused community and working group efforts, as well as procurement focused. I look forward to supporting them on both. Otherwise, I am sure glad that Ian is joining us today, and we're going to get right into it, Ian. So thank you so much for joining. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization, and then your role there?
Yes. So for those who do not know, my name is Ian Anderson. I am with Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren at their DAMNEC activity. Started there about 5 years ago, originally as a software developer, computer programmer. And, now I'm kind of moved towards the DevOps, DevSecOps field. And what's very interesting is, I didn't really plan that move to that role, which it may even get into some questions today of, how do we keep a good workforce? The way I kind of transitioned into that role was as I was working on the project, we had some new members come in, some members leave, and that was kind of the ebb and flow to the point to where I kind of really knew the environment, how to stand it up, how it all functioned, how everything built, and finally somebody came to me and said, well, you're really the DevOps person of the group. And I was like, wow, that's a really fancy word. I don't know what that means. So it really led me on this journey of, finding out, what is DevOps and getting into this, DevSecOps realm, which luckily was right in the time period where it was really all taking off. So fortunately for me, I was able to get in right as it was taking off, which has accelerated me into where I'm at now. Currently, like I said, I'm at the DAMNEC activity of NSWC Dahlgren, which is in Virginia Beach, Virginia. But NSWC Dahlgren is located more towards Northern Virginia, the DC area, and Dahlgren or King George, Virginia. Currently, I now work with a group that is based out of actual NSWC Dahlgren called the Naval Systems Engineering Resource Center, or NSERC. And they do a lot of the cloud hosting for NSWC Dahlgren, as well as other entities throughout the DoD. So, working with them, providing those cloud solutions, as well as, other tools to really any customers that have the need.
Got it. So really providing those cloud-based solutions for your clients and partners within the U.S. Navy. Is that right? It's only Navy. Would that include Marine Corps as well?
Yeah, so we provide those cloud solutions, obviously, to the Navy and the Marine Corps, as well as the Coast Guard, as well as the really core mission that we do. But we also, NSWC Dahlgren is a working capital fund, so we get funding from the government just to keep the lights on. The rest of the funding comes from whether it be program offices, other projects, research efforts that will come into Dahlgren and say, hey, we would like for you to do this work, or hey, we want your environment, here's some money, and we can actually go ahead and, take on those projects. So we have projects from all branches of, the DoD, other entities within the government, as well as, industry partners, academia as well.
Got it. This is about DevOps, and with that, it's cloud and Agile, right? To do the Agile faster, deliver faster, and regarding all that, with Agile methods, cloud-based capabilities, DevSecOps methods and tools, what have you all been able to accomplish? Where are you at in that journey?
So we were able at NSWC Dahlgren to get into the cloud technology early. The NSERC, Naval Systems Engineering Resource Center, who the group I work for now, originally started as more of a SharePoint farm. They had the SharePoint tools, offered it out. And then they saw really kind of that decline with a lot of other organizations, picking up SharePoint. Obviously now with the rollout of Microsoft Teams, flying speed, and that's really just a big SharePoint. They kind of saw the writing on the wall that they really needed to expand their offerings. What was the next thing that was coming down, down the road that they could help out with? And obviously, one of those big things, one of the big core focus areas at NSWC Dahlgren is software development. So they got into the GovCloud game early. So getting a subscription for AWS GovCloud and Azure GovCloud, and playing around with it. So I would say they've been in the GovCloud for about 6 or 7 years, but have really gotten serious. What do we really need to do to make this secure, to do this the right way, within the past 3 years? And it is very early in our journey. We have made some mistakes along the way, but I think that's what's helped us is we didn't kind of step back and try to plan it all out and really let it, the bus leave without us. We got right in there right when we were able to, and learned along the way.
And Ian, absolutely right. Like the best way to innovate is to take a different step forward, right? And that when you start iterating on that, there are some stub toes for sure. There are lessons learned, but that's how you improve. But I'm curious, what was some of the first steps? There's so much you could possibly do, and I think with many organizations that see the juxtaposition between DevSecOps perfection as far as an organization and how it's operating and its staff, right, versus legacy, that can be overwhelming. But if you break it down, you can start. Where'd you all start?
Yeah, so where we started, I was fortunate, and the reason I am working with the group I am now, I got my start in the cloud with the project I was working on at the Dam Deck activity with the group there, with the Navy International Program Office. And one of their biggest things is, so we're going to have people go out throughout the world, work with our allies. They're going to be receiving a lot of this, information. And a lot of times that information is lost. So how, can we build an application or a program that can save a lot of this data, tag a lot of this data? So in the future, we can search on this and understand, are there opportunities? They may not be opportunities now, but they may happen in the future. And so, really looking at the traditional methods, especially within a government, a DoD organization of, okay, we're going to put this on a server, on a military installation, locked down behind all these cybersecurity, protocols, and we're going to have, people from academia who are helping out the international program, all these other people, and it just wasn't working. So we started searching around for a solution, and we came across the Insert and their cloud capabilities, and they were very straightforward with us. They said, we honestly have no clue, what we are capable of doing with this, what all the services are, or how we should go about this. So it was a really close partnership with a lot of the early projects to work with Insert, work with those projects, and a lot of it was, hey, I have this idea to so a fine example is the way we have the cloud implemented for our network. It's a network denied environment within our cloud resources. So nothing can reach out, nothing can reach in. All has to be passed through to our on-prem for scanning, all that. So we had a machine learning bot that needed to go out, hit the internet, grab some search results, bring it back to analyze. Well, it couldn't go out and hit the internet. So we devised a method of, hey, can we use Azure Functions or AWS Lambda to make that call for us, to obscure that it's not a DoD entity making these calls out, that it's just a general Microsoft or AWS call. And they said, wow, that's pretty smart. Here, why don't you go try that out and show us how you did that? So it was a lot of back and forth learning, and I'm sure this will tie into a lot of questions later. That really kind of set the basis of how Insert operates. Of they're not really going to know everything. When people say, I'm an AWS expert or I'm an Azure expert. I don't know how many number of services that you can't be truly an expert in everything of, one of those, entities. So they kind of really form the basis of, wow, instead of us trying to bring, all the experts in, why don't, or hire them in, why don't we bring the community together and allow the community to help itself, to teach itself, and then we expand on that knowledge.
And so to that, how did you enable, or others enable, those folks that were really ensuring those first steps were happening? Whether there was some successes and failures, initially through that learning, what were some enablers to allow that to even happen? Because some offices, some organizations can struggle with taking even the first step. What you're talking about there, about essentially, hey, Lambda, let's try that. Let's see if that works. Some folks can go, whoa, what is this? And nothing happens then, right? So how did you all enable that first experiment?
Yes. So, the way we did it was, we had groups coming to us, individuals coming to us saying, hey, I have this idea. I want to be able to do this. I want to use, this AI service. I want to, the database I have on-prem really isn't, helping us. I want to, take it to the cloud, be able to scale it. And obviously anything you do in the cloud is going to incur a cost. So, what we were able to do is so what we have at NSWC, what has started, so there was a couple of mechanisms we could use. There was one thing we had started called Software Factory Foundations, which was, the Warfare Center's kind of first step in saying, we hear the software factory thing. How do we do it? What is it? How can we get somewhere close to it? It got together really with no funding, got together, a lot of organizations who were either in the cloud doing a lot of these great things, whatever it may be, to bring them together and say, hey, how can we help each other get to that, first stepping stone of what would look like a software factory. So you had some people come together and say, oh, well, my biggest issue is I can never get, CI/CD pipelines to work. My IA person says we can't do it because it would need root access. Well, then now you have a community behind you that's saying, well, yeah, we had that issue, but if you set it up this way, or you use this service, then you'll be able to, explain to your IA person that, hey, it's not root access. This is how it's going to operate. The other way, obviously into the funding portion of, how do I get a, Azure service or AWS service I'm going to have to pay for? If it's something, very minuscule, you're only going to try it out for a week. Insert is very flexible to say, hey, let's go ahead, turn it on. Let's see what, you can test. Let's find out what's possible. But obviously, if there is going to be a larger cost, or, this is an extended project, Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren offers internal research projects. Each year, proposals are submitted for new ideas for projects, whether they could improve upon, projects that are, already being worked on at the Warfare Center, or just general improvements for things like, DevSecOps or Software Factory, AI, ML, to where you can actually secure funding to go try out those ideas. And the best part is they don't have to be, a complete success and they have to transition to a program office. They can, they can finish in a year and you can say, wow, I really learned a lot. I can take this back to a project, or even apply for more funding to, further those ideas.
And so I'm real curious, Ian, about, you've pointed out this internal community of practice. You didn't describe it that way, but that's essentially what's going on. And for listeners, Google has called this out as a best practice, a necessary practice, in, I think, starting in the 2019 State of the DevOps report. And I'm real curious, because you described there, even as you all were just like starting to take some baby steps and learning, like the community was already there, and that's rare, if ever, happening. Like my experience at USGS, we were doing some things, and I know other science centers were doing things. Then we got together and shared. It seems like y'all were ahead of the power curve there. Who was responsible for like building all that out with that internal community of practice to spread lessons, and just to highlight for everyone, spread lessons learned, but also the courage to change and try strange new things, right? New technologies and tools.
Yes. So it really started out as, there were little pockets here and there of communities of practice that, it was just a small group. So what was interesting for me, so you have NSWC Dahlgren, all the departments are up there, but then you have a single department that is down in Virginia Beach. So, when we hear the other departments talk about, oh, it's so, compartmentalized, like you only talk to your department, we're like, oh, well, we only talk to our departments. So it was very interesting, talking to a lot of people at Dahlgren, and they were like, yeah, well, I know this group's over here has done that before, but we don't really talk to them. And I'm like, well, I'm down in our department. I've never talked to anybody. I only know, what's going on in the building. And, that's the 5 other people that are doing the same thing that I'm doing. That's all I have to talk to. I said, we should really be working together, more. And that was about the time when I was like, what is there that can be done? Right at that time, the Software Factory Foundations was being started up. And it was really led by, 2 people. It was 2 people take charge, go find it out. For a warfare center of, at the time, I believe it was about 4,000 to 5,000 civilians, the same, contractors. So 2 people go take charge and find out what the software factory thing is. So I remember, contacting, one of those people, and I said, hey, I understand this isn't a small task. This is nothing small. I completely understand, the scale, and especially the knowledge that's needed. Said, if you need anything from me, I'm willing to dedicate some of my time to helping you out. And it really kind of grew from there that, those who really wanted to build this community reached out and said, hey, I would really like to get involved if you have, the time for me, which obviously, they loved having more people. And like I said, it really wasn't a funded effort. This was a lot of the, those at the Warfare Center that wanted to see this grow. And then that's where it really took off, where, especially with CBR teams came out, that, no more email chains of, oh, let me go back to August and try to find, where this person, wrote me a reply for something. Now you could throw, okay, we have, an OpenShift cluster here now. Let's throw everybody who wants to get on OpenShift, test it out, break it, do whatever they want, throw them into a Teams chat. And we saw, great strides, and especially with a lot of common issues where somebody goes, oh, I can't log in, or, I don't know why my URL isn't working. Or, hey, I tried to connect and, my username password isn't working. And somebody would come back and say, oh, yeah, this has happened millions of times. Here's the steps to fix it. And so a lot of your small problems really go away just from, the community helping each other. And then you really get down to the major problems of, wow, what's an efficient way to really set up your, your nodes and your pods to scale, to load balance. You really get to the harder questions that, that the community and then the, experts that you have in there to really work on and think about.
Well, that's exciting. And fascinating. It seems like it's really helping Navy move forward. Has it gotten, and I'm asking because at a certain point, the OCIO at USGS found out about our internal community and then was happy about it, and then started asking us questions. There was a good kind of interaction engagement. How has leadership responded internal to Navy as far as y'all's nascent community that's growing and maturing?
Yes, they have responded positively to it. So, obviously the one big question, okay, you got everybody together, everybody's happy, everybody's really liking this, your developers are saying this is great, your, managers are saying the projects are looking good. But what is this really doing for the Warfare Center? And so, the really big part that, unfortunate but fortunate for us was when COVID-19 hit. And, that was right when Software Factory Foundations had a few pilot programs going to really show that return on investment. And, it got to the end, and that was the question they asked, okay, so how did this really help? And the big pilot project said, well, with COVID-19, we were not in the office. So that if this was all normal, we never had this, our people wouldn't be able to go in, they wouldn't be able to touch the servers, press the buttons to make the builds happen, do the tests, transfer the CDs from one server to the next. It just wouldn't happen. And they said with the implementation on OpenShift, we're able to spin up not only, what we want to test on this version of this weapon system, but we can test it with multiple versions if we want it. We just have to spin up a new container. Also, we're able to, start this anytime, test anytime, do whatever. And then the big return on investment was, well, also, we didn't anticipate COVID for going on for, how long it did. Their servers actually started to get to end of life, and they were going to have to order new ones. So, now you have these thousands of dollars of investments that they would have to put back into it, of which they said, we no longer need it. We can fully operate off of this OpenShift Kubernetes and through our CI/CD pipelines. Now we're saving those thousands of dollars, and now we don't have to worry about, in 3 to 5 years, our servers are going to then again have to be, renewed.
But was there any response from Navy leadership, CIO's office, et cetera, regarding, because COVID was kind of a wonderful test or crisis that way as far as resiliency, organizational resiliency, and as you described, did they think about that, about whether it could be cyber incidences or near peer activities, and juxtaposing how you all were able through those pilots handle and work through and have less impact through COVID because of what you had just been recently trying?
Yes, there was definitely a response that we saw. I think one of the big things was, there was a lot of attention going on with Platform One, what they were doing over there, and, how can we bring that to the Navy? And, we see the beginnings of Black Pearl starting to happen. But it was one of those things that there was a lot of focus on Black Pearl, the big kind of Platform One for the Navy. Let's do this. Which, we may even get into a little bit later with my organization of, it got to the point with COVID that the warfare centers, all these organizations under the Navy kind of were like, okay, we kind of really can't wait around anymore. We need to do something, for ourselves. So how do we do that? So one of the big things that I know I noticed was, especially around, that was improved, was around licensing. You saw, especially with NAVC, taking a look at, how are we going to do, enterprise licensing for a lot of these tools? How can we stop, this Warfare Center has, a contract with Red Hat and Microsoft, and then this one has, one with Red Hat and Microsoft, and, if they would combine theirs together, it would be less of a cost. So you saw really them take a look at, how do we do this enterprise licensing, which, they're still trying to figure out, but it was a first good step into, how can we reduce these costs, and especially with procurement, how do we reduce that procurement time to where, you're not sending up ITPRs to the NAVC headquarters, waiting for a few months, and then hoping that, you get your license in time if you have the software before the software expires.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and seems like you all had a wonderful experience. Now you mentioned software factory foundations, but then you've described your activity as a service center. Ian, what are some of your thoughts about that? And it doesn't really say much for or anything about like Air Force pushing towards software factories, and even Army doing some of that, but meanwhile they have Enterprise Cloud Management Agency too. But what are your thoughts or y'all's thoughts when it comes to software factory versus service center?
Yeah, so the way we do it, a lot of, with a lot of the buzzwords of software factory, and you even see it in a lot of, the upper level Navy leadership, even program office level going, all right, looking at the projects, I need you to do software factory and go. So, one of the things that we really looked at was, are we going to try to push, all of our customers to one tool set to, really one pipeline. And when we first looked at the software factory foundations, we found out that, a lot of people said, yeah, this is great, but I really like this tool set, or I'm already using this tool set, or, I just paid for this. What now I have to go, pay for something else. So we kind of, recentered and said, what is the best thing for the community here? So instead of going for what is the, software factory, kind of, we went for more of what I like to explain as, software co-op or a software farmers market. So we have, the large land, some tables set up, we can have the people come in, set up, offer out what they have. And, the certain things that we can provide to them, we can provide to them, but, we're not going to turn them away if, are you DevSecOps, fully 100%? Okay, well, no, you need to go back and get 100% prepared before you come into, our environment. The way we like to do it is really work with those organizations and, and tell them, hey, why don't you come into the environment? Let's get you set up exactly how you're operating right now. See if it really makes sense for you to be, if you want to iterate, if you want to go further, do more of those DevOps, DevSecOps best practices. We have a team in place that can help you start implementing those. One of our biggest things, like I said in the beginning, was we don't want to, bring somebody in, here's your solution, go have fun. We want them to learn. So when we bring organizations in, it's more of a, okay, here's your environment. Let's set up a hello world. Can your pipeline run just a simple hello world? All right, you're doing, a Java build. Let's set up a Java hello world example. Let's see if your pipeline can do that. And, you explain to them step by step, this is how we're building this out for you. So that way, when it comes down to it and they're doing those really complicated pipelines with, all the best practices, it's not something breaks and they go, wow, I have no clue where it broke, why it's broken. They have that knowledge, and also, that community behind them to where their first step isn't, oh, I guess I have to go put in a service ticket and wait for about 2 weeks.
And to your co-op example, which is a wonderful analogy, do they get access then to essentially that internal DevOps Navy community to start troubleshooting and kind of reskilling or upskilling their workforce?
Yes. So, what we do for a lot of our tools, we have those, chats on Teams. We also have another chat application that we host to where we can, put them in that community to say, hey, this is where, you can get information about the Atlassian toolset. This is where you can get information about, Nexus or JFrog or whatever the tool may be. So, we see a lot of success to where, we have a very small group. I believe it's about, I want to say 30 or 40 individuals working at NSERC, and that's I believe all together. So a small group supporting a large community. And what we found is a lot of times we can be spread thin, but as they're posting in these various channels and chats, they're saying, hey, they'll say, hey, is anybody else having trouble logging into this application? Is anybody else seeing seen this error before? By the time someone for our group gets in there, it's like, oh, well, they've already had the answer. So,
Yeah.
this is great.
Ian, it's like, it takes a village. Well, in your case, maybe it takes a co-op, right, to help facilitate and implement massive organizational modernization or transformation, right? It's not going to be just one entity. It takes everyone. That's fascinating.
Yes, definitely. I know it has definitely helped, even well, with a consolidation of, a lot of efforts as well, of where, we had one organization come in and they said, yes, we're coming in, we're from NAVC, this is what we're doing, these are the projects we want to migrate. And one of the projects we were already hosting said, oh, well, we're a project from your organization. Obviously this is coming out of the DI2E shutting down. They said, oh, we were originally one of your projects, but we quickly transitioned out because we are at Dahlgren, so we had a place to go. But why don't you come and use the tools that we're already using, which is now consolidating the cost, breaking up that cost among all the users.
Hey everyone, we lost Ian Anderson with the U.S. Navy right at the end there. But it's pretty clear that Navy is leading, pushing on DevSecOps, and you got to hear some of their methods and practices in place to facilitate that change. I want to say thank you to Ian. And while I apologize to everyone about losing him at the end there, I think we've all gone through that, especially during COVID and whatnot with remote work. And so it can happen, but I sure appreciate Ian joining and sharing the story of how Navy is leading out and his part in all of that, his leadership and their efforts as a part of that broader transformation and modernization in the U.S. Navy. So we will get this posted though, and we are going to be doing this podcast monthly. If you would like to participate, just feel free to reach out to me at brian.fox@omnifederal.com, and we'll work to get you on stage for the podcast. And thank you so much to ATARC for hosting all of this. It's wonderful. And so thank you all again. Appreciate it.